All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of She Knows, our brand new show about amazing women doing amazing things and amazing founders, entrepreneurs in their own right. Today, I'm super excited for our next guest because she is a true leader and visionary in her space, but she's also got an amazing history. And I think you're going to get a lot out of hearing her story and how she's built, grown, and just created this amazingly dynamic career. And she's actually an awesome person too. Now, I just want to tell you a little bit about her, and I'm going to get her to correct me if I get any of this wrong, but she's currently the founder of Veganism. It's a global community and content hub for vegan women. It's content marketing. She's a media and PR strategy expert. She's an author, and she's also got a couple of her own shows, which we're going to share with you today. I can't wait to introduce you to the show, Katrina Fox. How are you?
Hello, I am really well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
And you're rocking the colourful jacket in lockdown. Tell me about that.
Oh, well, I love bling, I love sparkle and glitz. And so I've got a number of jackets with gold sequins, silver sequins. I've got the one I'm wearing. And you mentioned Beavers, which is the global community and media brand that I've started. And it's basically for vegan women driven by compassion, purpose, and a bit of sparkle. So I'm on brand.
I love that. Well,
and seeing as we can't go out anywhere at the moment in lockdown, I'm like, well, that's no reason to not put, a sparkly jacket on.
Absolutely. And look, people are going to Google you furiously now. So I'm going to give them your URL, which is katrina.fox.com. Because when you read up there, you'll see that she mentions it's a big no to beige. She loves a bit of disco and bling, like she just said. And you'll probably see there also that she spent time as a journalist and an editor across the globe. I think you've done stuff with Forbes. You worked in the UK, the US, here in Australia. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, in a nutshell. So I've been, I suppose, working as a journalist for around about 24 years. And yeah, I'm from the UK originally, so I worked on staff. At my first job was at an HR magazine. And I immediately, when I started working, I immediately kind of found a spot for myself writing about equal opportunities in the workplace. So I think I've always kind of veered towards social justice, for human rights, LGBTIQ rights, feminism, animal rights, been passionate about all of those. So I've worked for various publications, from architecture and building construction. And then I've worked for the LGBTIQ Press, and I wrote for Forbes for a year, specializing in writing about the vegan and plant-based business space, which I'm really pleased to see that now mainstream media are writing about that on a regular basis. So I'm really excited about that. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. And now, as you mentioned, I've got my own projects such as Beavers, which I'm, looking to grow as a global community and media brand. Podcast. So I'm still keeping my journalism skills in hand. I do content marketing work, media and PR strategy. So I've sort of, I guess it's a case of looking back at your skills. And I think hopefully this will be important for people watching and listening. Look, taking the skills that you've got over the years, and you'll find a way to use them. So I think maybe for younger women watching or listening to this, who are thinking, oh, maybe I don't love this particular job that I've got, I can guarantee there'll be something you'll be able to take from it that down the track, you'll be glad you had that experience and that you can apply to it. So yeah, I guess that's what I'm doing at the moment.
I love hearing that. I'm very intrigued to hear, because it sounds like in some ways a bit of a pioneer, because you've written about things that were quite sort of left of field and niche, but have now become mainstream. If we were to focus on the vegan and plant-based area, when do you think, in your experience, was that tipping point that it really became mainstream? Was it one thing or one person, or was it a combination? But it feels like it's just arrived, and I'm trying to work out, well, where did it kind of break through and really turbocharge? And you probably know.
Yeah, so as I mentioned I've been journalist for 24 years. I've been vegan for 25 years, and I know people have been vegan a lot longer. So there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes, from an animal rights perspective, around veganism. And for a long time it was mocked. It had all these stereotypes of, the food was really bland. It was just salad and lentils. There's nothing wrong with salad and lentils, of course, but and then I think what happened was, social media played a large part in helping to dispel some of these myths. And I think the tipping point started to come around about the end of 2013. I think it was the New York Post or the New York Magazine had a headline saying, "Is 2014 the year of the vegan?" And it's quite funny because every year since then we've had similar kind of headlines, but I think that was when we really, I think a convergence of things happened. I think it was social media did play a large part in that. We saw a lot of food bloggers, for example, posting recipes of like, chocolate cake and, cheeseburgers, all of which, and all this amazing food, all of which was vegan, but that people recognized and thought, oh, I didn't know that could be vegan. I think that was the tipping point. And then obviously plant-based and vegan businesses, that whole sector really started to take off. And it's not a fad, it is actually a trend. I think, if you look at Google searches for the word vegan, continue to be on an upward trajectory. People are actively looking to, even if they're not looking or they're quite ready to go completely vegan, a lot of people are interested in incorporating more plant-based foods. They're looking at consuming more consciously. So even with fashion, they're looking for fashion that is cruelty-free, that is more sustainable and environmentally friendly. So I think it's been that confluence of the rise of social media, the conscious consumer movement, obviously millennials, I think, and the younger generations, the zillennials as well, have kind of grown up being more conscious and aware of where things come from and supporting businesses and companies that are more ethical. And I think we're starting to see, I think for me personally, I think animals have always been left behind. People are kind of like, oh yeah, the environment, human rights, yay. But then when it comes to animals, it's like, oh no, I don't want to have to take animals off my plate, or I don't want to have to stop wearing leather. And I think that's now starting to change. We're even seeing celebrities, in making their beauty products vegan by default, even if they themselves are not vegan. So I'm really liking that, the whole aspect around animal rights, animal welfare is being taken a bit more seriously now, and people can realize you can still be fabulous, you can still be glam and stylish and have amazing food and clothes and products, but they can be ethical. They don't have to harm people, animals, or the planet.
That's fantastic. I usually ask my guests at the start of the show, what does a day in the life look like? But I was hoping maybe we could go for a bit of a twist on this, and you could tell me, what does a typical diet in the day of the life look like? And what's maybe one new thing that you've been trying lately that's really impressed you that you weren't expecting to like as much as you do?
Oh gosh, that's an interesting one. I'm not sure I'm the best person to ask that, because I don't make stuff in the kitchen. So I have the same, apart from breakfast and lunch. So my partner and I have the same thing, and I make it. This is one of the few times I'm actually in the kitchen. Is a fresh fruit smoothie for breakfast, and then I prepare a salad for lunch, which I know sounds really boring, but wait, don't panic. There's more for dinner. So what I do, so I don't have the time or the inclination. I just don't enjoy really making stuff in the kitchen. I'd rather be doing something else with my time. So I'm delighted with the rise of plant-based food delivery services. So I have one that I subscribe to. I've just found out another one of my favorite restaurants has just launched, a vegan restaurant has launched a plant-based meal delivery service. So I love to get those in. And that means that I get to explore and enjoy a whole different range of cuisine that I would never otherwise get to, because there's no way I would be making that. Sometimes people, like I did some editing work for a friend of mine who was writing a book, and I had to edit a couple of recipes, and honestly, by just the, you have the list of ingredients, and then you have, and here's how to make it. By the third or fourth ingredient, I was exhausted mentally just by reading it, never mind doing it. So I actually love to be able to get these things delivered. And I do, and I recently actually tried something, you mentioned something that I wouldn't normally eat, is a vegan steak through this plant-based meal company. And it came with mashed potatoes and a bit of gravy and some broccolini. And all I had to do was heat it up in the oven. And that was interesting. It was quite tasty. Is it something I'm going to have on a regular basis? Maybe not, but it's something that I might have now and again. And I wasn't expecting to be able to eat, quote, steak again. I haven't eaten, even though I've been vegan for 25 years, I haven't actually eaten meats for much longer than that, probably twice, not quite twice. I was vegan since I was 11, and I'm 55 now, so you can do the maths. So, that was unexpected, and it was fun, and it makes me very happy to see these products available, especially for people who are not like me, who are not yet vegan, because they, again, it dispels those myths. And so, yeah, otherwise my breakfast and my lunch is pretty much the same. I nibble on some raw cashews. I might have a raw chocolate bar in the afternoon, or an apple as a little pick-me-up. And then my dinner is the kind of slightly different thing, but it's all from, other places. It's not something I make.
Yeah, awesome. Has there been one productivity hack or something that you've implemented being stuck in this routine of, lockdown, that's actually surprised you at being really good at giving you a bit more of an optimal day?
The only thing I would say really is, while I'm making the breakfast and the lunch, I listen to podcasts. So, and that's why I love podcasts, because you can multitask. So my podcast listening habits range from, it might be something practical, maybe around marketing or content marketing, or it could be something more spiritual based, like listening to Oprah or Eckhart Tolle. And I really like that, because and I found that's really been helpful, because otherwise, when I was making the breakfast and the lunch, I think, oh, this is a task. I need to get through it as quickly as possible so I can get to my computer and, get started on the juicy stuff. But now it's kind of like, oh, I can look forward to it, because I go, oh, good, right, what should I listen to while I'm doing it? So I get that added benefit. So I'd say that's probably the main one.
Yeah, excellent. I'd love to hear from you. Who were some of your role models growing up, both close from a family friend perspective, and also women at that time that you really admired from afar?
Oh gosh, this might be a little bit embarrassing, but I'll say it anyway. Really, when I was growing up, and I grew up in a small town just outside of South London, in Kent, and there was nothing exciting about it. And so, and I kind of always felt I was different. So I knew I didn't want to stay there. And so my role models really were some of the golden age Hollywood movie stars, like Betty Davis, Joan Crawford. And then in the 80s, I discovered Dynasty. So Joan Collins, I put on a bit of a pedestal. I was like, oh, I want to be like her. Now looking, when I look back at that now, I'm kind of like, I've still taken elements of that, that kind of the camp and the glamour and the fun. But I enjoy women who are confident, but not nasty to people, or mean, and also have that compassionate aspect to people, animals, and planet. But in terms of people close to me, gosh, growing up, role models, I'm not really sure. And that probably sounds a bit strange, but I can't really think of anyone in the family kind of circle. Mainly a couple of my teachers. I wouldn't say they're necessarily role models, but I was appreciative of them, because like one of my English lit teachers, for encouraging my creative writing, for example. So I think maybe teachers who supported me, I'm grateful for them. Whether or not I saw them as role models, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, it's look, it's a good question, because it always brings up such a very response from people. And one thing I'm noticing is they change over time, but it's great to hear that you're not afraid to mention, well, at the time they were, because.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask you was, how has the role of being a role model yourself impacted you, and how important is to you in the work that you do?
Gosh, it's interesting. One of my heroes is a vegan journalist who was a mainstream media journalist, Jane Velez Mitchell. She had her own show on CNN and everything. And one of the things she said, because she is she's sober, and so she overcame alcoholism. And one of the things she said is to not put yourself on a pedestal. She said, as soon as I start to do that, or, think of yourself as a hero, as a role model, things tend to unravel. And I think that resonated with me. So I don't really think of myself in that way. By the same token, I realized that when you have got a platform, it comes with responsibility. And so, I do aim to inspire other people, particularly, with the new project Vivas. I aim to really inspire and empower vegan women to become better leaders in their life, their work, and their advocacy. So I guess there's an aspect there. It informs what I do, like the types of content that I share, or the events that I might run, or just ways that I can best support this community that I've created, or that I've created, to best help and support them. So I guess that's how it plays out now. But the people I admire now certainly are those who they're confident but not arrogant. They're self-assured. They really have a sense of self, and it's not based on how pretty they are, or how when I say pretty, I mean how, society holds people, and particularly women, up to certain beauty standards. But, a lot of the women I admire, it doesn't really matter. It's not about how you look on the outside. It's about who you are on the inside. What good are you doing in the world? But having that self-assurance, I think, is attractive, but also the added aspects of having that compassion for people, animals, and planet. And also, obviously, I like people who are fun and have that little bit of sparkle about them. My role models have definitely changed over the years, but I still look back in fondness. I can still watch a Betty Davis film and think, oh, she was fabulous. You know what I mean? I can still appreciate that and be grateful, because it helped me get through my childhood to know that there was other worlds out there and other possibilities.
Yeah, that's excellent. Now, you would have come across so much in your career, having this focus on equal opportunity and then crossing over to all these different verticals. I am keen to hear from you if there are some instances personally, or maybe that you witnessed through your career, of gender-specific challenges that people have faced. And no doubt you've been someone that's probably covered these and played an active role in mitigating them.
Yeah, in terms of my own, I've certainly been aware of other people's experiences. In terms of my own personal experiences, look, I've touched wood, I've been lucky. I haven't experienced anything personally that's been super discriminatory or anything. My journalism jobs, for example, I felt I was supported and all of that. There was probably one instance where there was a particular publisher who I think didn't really like women, and particularly didn't like strong women. But I wasn't the only one, and I held my ground, but it was quite stressful. And the sad thing is, it was actually a dream job. There were a lot of really positive aspects to it, and I loved it, but it was also very stressful, and that kind of didn't help. And I ended up with 2 frozen shoulders that I could barely dress myself with. So that would probably be maybe the only one where I've had personal experience. But obviously, very much aware of discrimination in the workplace, in other areas. And I guess what I'm trying to do now with Vivas, as I say, is to really help champion vegan women, to help them find their voice, and a very diverse range of vegan women as well, of different ages, ethnicities, backgrounds, etc. Really helping them to find a voice, because I think a lot in social justice movements in general, it often white men particularly are often at the front with the loudest voices. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because, and I think particularly in the animal rights movement, I actually really like it that, traditionally so-called, what people deem to be, the epitome of masculinity are promoting veganism. I actually really like that. And I think it's important that they speak out, because then other men will more likely to listen to them. But at the same time, I just want to make sure that there's equal platform, for the vegan women to share their perspectives, and also in the broader society as well. So whether that's in the corporate workplace, I want vegan women to be able to be confident to create an initiative perhaps, or to speak out. So I guess that's where, I've certainly been very much aware of all of that, and doing my best now to particularly champion, vegan women in particular, to go out there, to not be afraid to speak, and spread their message and their stories, which I think are really important. Excellent.
Now that you've sort of gotten to where you are, and I mean, it sounds like you are really just, you're crushing it with your career and all the varied things that you do. Now that you've been able to see quite a bit, are there any clear things that you would love to still be able to change, or maybe that stand out to you as things that still really do need to change? Because when they do, it'll make it so much easier for those coming through next. Like, is there particular things that still really make you go, that really does need to change and it should have by now? Or is there something that we can shine a light on that really stands out to you?
Yeah, I guess a couple of things. I mean, obviously, just the whole diversity, not just making it lip service, not paying lip service to diversity, but really recognizing that having diverse people, whether it's within an organization or in a community, is a really positive thing. And supporting those people to be able to come forward. So obviously, sexism is still rampant. So is ageism. I think that's another one. Like even the term the Karen. And I know it could be justified, in its original way that it came about, but I'm not particularly, I think it's quite a misogynist and an ageist insult, so I'm not really kind of liking that. So I think there's obviously those elements that still exist that I would love to see those changed, and of course I would like to see more people be more compassionate towards all beings, and that includes animals. So I think particularly in the feminist movement, the women's movement, I would really like to see much more of an embracing of veganism, as everything is interconnected. What we do to animals impacts us as humans. Some female animals suffer terribly. For example, in the dairy industry, their reproductive systems are hijacked, their babies are stolen. I mean, that should be horrific to anyone who's a mother. And I would love to see much more of, that recognition of the interconnectedness, that when we inject kindness to all, it benefits us all.
Yeah. Awesome. Tell me, what are some of the biggest fears?
What are some of my biggest fears?
Yeah.
Oh, I think not being enough, not being good enough, not being worthy. And I think they're probably, I know they're universal, and I think they probably impact women more. But yeah, and I think that's important to realize as well, that, it can seem on the outside like, yeah, everything's going great and you've had this amazing career. And I have been very lucky and I'm blessed, but that doesn't mean it's all sunshine and rainbows every single day. I think all of us, including me, have days where it's just like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm spinning my wheels. How am I going to grow this? Oh, that didn't work. Oh my gosh. There's all of that. And I think that's important to recognize. So yeah, I still get those days where, even though I'm generally, confident and all of that, I still get days where I'm like, am I enough? I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. That person's better. I can suffer from comparisonitis and go down that rabbit hole of, oh, that person's doing it so much better than I am. Should I even bother? So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. That's excellent. Tell me, parasitis, just expand for me.
Oh, comparisonitis.
Comparison.
So, when you, I don't know if that's even a term. I'm not sure. I'm sure I haven't made it up. Somebody sure has probably made it up. But yeah, it's just that whole, when you're comparing yourself to someone maybe in your field and you think, oh, they seem to be they're growing a lot faster. They're kicking goals. They've, you know what I mean? And you're kind of like, oh, and it can be easy to kind of go down that rabbit hole. But then it can just paralyze you, and then you don't do anything. So I think it's important to, you can be aware of what other people are doing in your industry, but I think obviously focus on what you're doing, what your audience wants, and just know that people will be attracted to you and your projects, and some people will be attracted to someone else's, and that's okay, because you can't be everyone's cup of tea. I know I'm certainly not everybody's cup of tea. Not everyone loves my sparkly outfits or my English accent or whatever, and that's okay. That's why it's important to have people doing similar things, and so that people can gravitate towards what works for them.
Yeah, excellent. Katrina, we talked about the fruit smoothie, the salad, the little raw chocolate snacks. Are there some other secrets to success for other women listening that really help you have an amazing day, an amazing month, an amazing 90 days, an amazing year? Like, is it meditation daily? Are you a big reader? Do you like to exercise in a particular way? Sort of, what are some of those secrets to success?
Yeah, I think the secrets of success in life is a mixture of all of what you said. Yes, I try and meditate in the morning for about 10 or 15 minutes, and the same in the evening before I go to bed. If I don't do it daily, it's no biggie, but I really kind of aim to do that and to take that time. When we're not in lockdown, I love to go to dance classes and yoga classes. So at the moment, I'm doing a few about 20 minutes of yoga stretches 3 times a week, which is not great, in my lounge, which is not great because I'm not terribly motivated. Which is why I like classes, because I book them and they penalize you if you don't show up. So that's extra meditation, and I really enjoy them. And you're not going to leave because you're in a class. I'm going to stay that full hour. So I do that. On the weekends, we try and have Sunday as a family day as much as possible. And on Saturday, That's my kind of like, I do read a bit in the evening sometimes, but I actually like to read typically that I call it my soul day on a Saturday. So that's typically when I might read, a personal development book or a spiritual type book or an interesting memoir that's uplifting and inspiring. So that's kind of how I break it down. On Friday night, I will typically do a binge watch of TV shows that I like. I'm loving Wentworth at the moment. Brilliant TV show. I loved the original Prisoner, and I love Wentworth. I love British and particularly British like dramas and stuff like that. So yeah, I have my sort of quote guilty pleasures, definitely I think eating well, doing some exercise, doing the meditation. I think that's important because sometimes I can go. Like I've done it in the past and I've burnt myself out where I think, right, the more you do, the more, that means the more productive you are. And that means the more successful you'll be. But like I say, I ended up with 2 frozen shoulders at a dream job that I had. And I've been burnt out in other times where I've kind of gone. And I know sometimes you might have to do that on a short-term basis. Like when I brought my book out, Vegan Ventures, I was like that whole year, I was like in full on mode, and I did sacrifice sleep occasionally. I didn't go out, I sacrificed some social arrangements, what have you. But once that project was done, then it was like, right, you know what I mean? You've got to let up a bit. So I think you might do something short term if you've got a project that you want to launch where you're kind of, maybe burning the candle at both ends, for example, but it's not sustainable in the long term. And that's one lesson I've definitely learned. And so with growing Vivas, I know that I have to balance it. Like I've had a couple of late nights this week, but then I'm kind of like, okay, so tonight I've got 90 minutes where I go to this choir and they're doing, I can't sing in tune to save my life, I should say. It's a really nice choir where anyone can go, and we're singing together online, and I should be dancing in the lounge and I should be wearing another sparkly, jacket. So I think that is important because that can actually make you more productive, getting the right sleep and taking care of yourself. I think that's a sign of success, and that can actually help you in other areas, if it's a project that you're launching. So that's definitely been a big lesson, is that, by stopping and doing self-care stuff, it's not selfish in a negative way. It's actually really beneficial in all aspects of your life, your relationships, because then you're calmer and you're nicer, you're not snapping at someone because they haven't slept properly and what have you. So yeah, self-care is really important.
So I have to ask, how do you get 2 frozen shoulders, and how did you sort of unfreeze them or come back from that? Like, what do you think? Mate,
I think it was the stress. Like, it was a dream job. I loved it. It was the first editor's gig that I got, and so I was determined. I thought, my name is on it. It's got to be amazing. So even though I was working freelance, but I was working 5 days a week and being paid those 5 days. But I was working a lot of extra hours unpaid because I wanted it to be, amazing and incredible. So I think a lot of it was pressure, and some of that was self-imposed. I'll be perfectly, I put pressure on myself. This has got to be amazing. So I did that was another time where, I sacrificed sleep and all of this. And I was, because I was getting free tickets to go to events and shows and all the rest of it. So there was that aspect that was quite glamorous, and I loved it. But also it was long hours at the computer, plus the stress. So that was the publisher that I think, wasn't particularly supportive, particularly of this as a women's magazine. And there was all that kind of built up. So I ended up getting a frozen shoulder. And with that one, like, it just wouldn't unfreeze. I ended up having a cortisone injection, and then eventually it started to get a little bit better, but then the other one went. So there was a point where I literally, my wife Tracy had to help me get dressed and undressed. Like, I couldn't lift things over my head. It was horrible. And I tried I had acupuncture and all sorts. And eventually, I mean, they just healed. I think I did a lot of, meditation and calm. I'd left that job. So once I think all of that went, eventually it healed up, and touch wood, it's been all good. But definitely a warning sign, your body will give you warnings when you're, pushing things too hard.
So tell me about the family. Tell me about the family. tree, the family life, the dynamic you got going on there?
Well, I'm adopted. So I grew up in England. I've traced both my birth parents. One was in the UK and the other one's been living in New York. I'm half Persian by birth. So my birth father is Persian. And I've been lucky to kind of connect with that side of the family. They're all in the US. And also discovered I had two sisters, a full sister, a half sister and a half brother. It's been really nice finding all that out and connecting that and finding out. And I think that's important for people, particularly if you're adopted. People do want to know where they come from. So I do feel very blessed that I was able to hear both my birth mother and my birth father's stories. For the past, I've been with my partner, Tracy, my wife, Tracy, since, oh gosh, how long have we been together? Since 1993. We came to Sydney in 2001 and we're still together and it's good. Feel very lucky and very blessed. We live in central Sydney, so when we're not in lockdown, I like to go out and to vegan restaurants. I've held vegan events like for vegan entrepreneurs, so looking forward to getting back to doing some of that stuff, but feel very blessed.
So when you managed to find your birth parents and these siblings, were there a couple of goosebump moments where there was something about them that reminded you of something about yourself, or that was just really uncanny and you're like, wow, that's amazing?
One thing, the bling, the sparkle. So my birth mother and both my birth sisters all love sparkle and glitz. And my birth father has a disco ball above his bar in his apartment in New York. So he also likes the bit. So that, I think, so I can actually genuinely say that my love of sparkle and bling is actually genetic.
he owns a bar in New York with
no. In his apartment, he's got a little bar area, like just a little small bar area, and he's got the disco ball that hangs above it because it said it reminds him of the old days of Studio 54 in New York.
Definitely genetic. Now, I have to ask, given you've given us a glimpse into your, extroverted nature and you love your yoga and your dancing and your bling, is there maybe a secret talent or secret talents that you have that only a select few around you actually know that you possess, that you'd be willing to share with our audience?
Oh, gosh. Secret talents. Not really, because I was going to say, because I can't sing to save my life, but like at choir, when I go, I do sing because it doesn't really matter. I did some stand-up comedy a few years ago as a character. But again, because it wasn't really secret necessarily, although there's not really footage of it online. So I suppose a lot of people, if they didn't know me back then, might not know about it. And that was quite raunchy and a bit saucy. But apart from that, I don't think so. I mean, sometimes...
was there a particular line or joke that you could share from the bit or the character that's safe for the podcast?
Not really, because I did whole monologues and stuff. So it wasn't that kind of comedy.
What was the character's name?
Kitty Minge, and the show was called Good Time Girl in a Big Bad World. So I kind of infused this kind of raunchy, saucy character, but I had quite political observations around human rights and animal rights and stuff. So it was fun. It was fun at the time. I performed it at Mardi Gras Festival, at the Adelaide Feast Festival, and it was fun because my background is actually, I should say, even though I've been a journalist, my degree is actually in performance art. So for a few years in the UK, I worked, and I know that's your background as well. I know you're an actor and what have you. So I did, some basically just some stuff of my own, a bit of extra work on, shows like The Bill and stuff. But then, did some of my own stuff and just, so my background is performance art. So, my wife and I, Tracy, sometimes, we will just spontaneously burst into character and, act out these funny little scenes. And I quite like that because I do wonder, I think, I'm not sure anyone else would get that, would get me. So that's probably the only thing, but it's not really, I don't know if that's a secret talent, not really, but it's giving you a little insight.
I feel like there's a slot on Netflix for a Kitty Minge special.
Oh, Dan, someone else I know, this business advisor I know, has said that. I think you should resurface her, but I don't know, I'm not really in the vibe for that. But never say never, you never know. But but again, that comes back to the point I made earlier about looking back at all those skills. When I look now, because I speak, and typically when we're not in lockdown, I might be traveling to London or New York, speaking at Veg Fest or plant-based events, and when I look back, I'm thinking, oh, okay, the skills that I learned in the degree in performance art, that's all come in handy for what I'm doing. And I'm sure that's probably the same for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have to ask, did you have a favourite musical theatre production or play that you did that really is like your favourite one, or the one that you really enjoyed being a member of the cast of?
So it wasn't really, I've never been part of like a musical kind of event, probably because I can't sing. But in terms of what I've done, I think really, to be honest, it's probably the Kitty Minge thing, simply because I had a goal of performing a one-woman show in public by the age of 40, and that was when I was 40 when I did that. So I ticked that goal. So I was quite pleased with myself that I wrote it and I got out there and just did it. So I would say I enjoyed that. I did. It was more of an Amdram thing in Sydney, where I played the lead role of Josie in quite a well-known British play called Steaming. So that was quite, that was pretty good fun. But yeah, I'd say probably the Kitty Minge thing. But certainly in terms of like musicals that I enjoy or films that I enjoy, I mean, I went to see Cats at the age of 18. I went from the place I was living in my 18th birthday. I treated myself. I went on my own to see Cats and I loved it. And I also, going back to the Golden Age Hollywood movie stars, I met Lauren Bacall at the age of about 18, 19. And again, I bought a ticket. She was in a Tennessee Williams play called Sweet Bird of Youth. And I got myself up there, had a ticket in the upper circle because it was the cheapest. And as soon as the play finished, I rushed out of my seat and I ran round to the stage door expecting there to be this big long queue, and there wasn't. And she came out and I managed to say hello to her, and I was super excited about that.
Yeah. There's something magical about the performing arts in the UK. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. Look, as I say, I mean, look, I love living in Sydney, but when it comes to like drama, like TV drama, I think there's nothing quite like a good BBC or ITV British TV show and drama. And I make sure that I'm subscribed to the relevant services that allow me to enjoy them.
There's a lot that potentially couldn't be made in 2021, but I have to ask, are you a fan of Little Britain?
Oh gosh, look, I think I might have watched a couple of episodes. I wouldn't say I was a fan. I mean, I watched a couple of episodes, and I think there was some funny stuff in there. And it's interesting, like you say, as society changes, and certainly when I was a kid, I mean, there were shows that were even more out there than that. Like there was a character called Alf Garnett, who was like, you look back now and you're like, oh my gosh, because you can see it through new eyes. So, but I'm actually a big fan though of Ab Fab. I love Absolutely Fabulous. I really like Joanna Lumley. She's an animal person. She's very much supports, animal welfare and stuff. But yeah, I really like Ab Fab. And it's interesting. I think Jennifer Saunders came out recently and said, oh, some of that we wouldn't get away with now. So it is kind of interesting how society evolves and how we keep creativity going whilst also, kind of not trashing groups of people who have been historically marginalised. And it is a bit of a fine balance.
Totally. I have to ask, with your current endeavours and this amazing work you're doing in not just the vegan space, but many others, how can we as an audience not just check you out, but how can we collaborate? How can we get involved? How can we join you in making an impact?
That's a really good question. Well, there's two things, I suppose. I mean, obviously, if people are, particularly women or vegan, are vegan and they want to be part of this global community and media brand, I'm looking for writers and contributors, to be part of that. That would be amazing. But also, I guess I'm really keen to grow the media brand side of it, and that can be a bit of a challenge when it's kind of just you and a very kind of small team. So I'm always interested in collaborating, particularly with independent publishers, and to see how they've done it and what steps they took. And yeah, I'm interested in kind of obviously getting the vegan message out there. So if you know, like I wrote a book called Vegan Venture, Start and Grow an Ethical Business. So the vegan business space is something that I'm involved with and passionate about. So yeah, I think just bringing people in, not even necessarily just me, but just, you know, bringing people into those kind of business events to represent that growing trend, I think is really important. So, you know, people can reach out to me on LinkedIn is a good way. Check out veganbusinessmedia.com and thebeaversnetwork.com, and to see if there's any potential for collaborations like this that we'd like you did.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, we were speaking off air, and for those listening and watching, our intention is as soon as we can either get Katrina down to our Melbourne studio or be with her in Sydney. We want to actually film an Ask the Expert video and drill down further on these particular topics, especially with relation to the vegan side of things, because I think you're one of the leading voices globally, and we're pretty lucky to have you down under here. So we're going to have to hold you to that. I'd guess we call it a part 2 for She Knows, but I think that's exciting, and hopefully this does end for us soon so that we can. Before we wrap up, because I know we've run out of your precious time, is there anything else you'd like to add for us to share with the audience?
Just don't be put off by the myths around veganism. Be kind, and just that, I think just I'd love to leave people just with that recognition. I think it's known as the golden rule in different religions, and I'm more spiritual than religious, but it's like, you know, that whole treat others, and by others I include animals, treat others the way you would want to be treated. So yeah, don't be afraid of veganism. You don't have to sacrifice anything. You can still be fabulous and enjoy the things that you loved, and know that you're doing good in the world. If you run a business, consider, you know, veganizing it so that it's inclusive then of everybody. And that's basically my message. I know I'm kind of like I said at the beginning of my book, I'm into vegan world domination, and I am, and I say that quite unapologetically, but in a, you know, I just want to present it as something positive and a really wonderful lifestyle.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Katrina Fox, thanks for being our latest guest on She Knows, and we can't wait to do this all again with you. And thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you very much, Brandon. It's been a real pleasure. I appreciate what you're doing and showcasing women, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you're doing with your production company and any further collaboration. So thank you so much for having me. It's been great.